Kæru gestir, þá vil ég kynna til leiks Öysten Tviberg frá Bergen brandvæsan sem slökkviliðsmaður umsjónarmaður MIRC-hóps slökkviliðsins í Bergen og hann ætlar að fjalla sérþjálfaðar sveitir slökkviliðsmanna sem fást við elda á mengun og óhöpp í skipum. Gjörðu svo vel.
Very good morning. And first of all, I want to thank you for your hospitality and your generosity for inviting us to Iceland to have a short run through my subject for today. My name is Öysten Tviberg, working as president in Bergen Fire Department and also leader for the Maritime Incident Response Group, who is specialized in handle assistance for ships and hazards area. The goal for my presentation will try to illustrate how the system is built up. Everything from the support from the government to actually go in and do the performance, and also a little bit of the risk assessment, who this is actually highest point, of course, and how we do the training for the issue, and a little bit of the people, the organized system, and a little bit, if we have time. I also have a specific accident, so we can run through what actually happened from the first call out till we are on board the ship, until we say that we clear the ship and it's okay to be in a safe area. It's a long process. Yes. And feel free to ask questions or whatever is during my presentations. Some of you probably doesn't know the short line from RITS, we call it in Norway, or MIRC. MIRC stands for Marine Incident Response Group, and it's something that's not new. It's been existing for many years in Europe. It's based on the special training group who are specialized in the ship and ship's fires. Then again, we are only a group of who assist if the ship or a special hazard area actually need help to continue. In Italy, Belgium, Germany, France, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and so on. So the ideal thing will be that we have one standard form for the whole European training philosophy. Everything from equipment, risk assessment, and so on. That's the ideal thing. And they do a kind of work, especially in Finland, they call it EU Baltic. And therefore it's called a short line for Marine Incident Response Group on your left side of the picture. Shortly of the Bergen, we are split into two groups, meaning one if it's life-threatening, means we have the Norwegian Directorate for Civil Protection, who is the organization for if they say that it is a chance for life-threatening or life-saving operation. It defines the public requirements of the fire prevention, preparedness and response, coordinating the MIRC and a national administrative level. So, meaning that the municipal along the Norwegian coast actually have a responsibility to have some kind of emergency response in the harbor or in the port. If we're talking about environmental part, meaning to assist a chemical tanker or an oil tanker or whatever it is, as long as it's not going into a life-threatening situation, another department will take over. That's the Norwegian Coastal Administration. And the one that's supporting the Norwegian coast at the moment is Oslo and Bergen, through the whole line. It's building the same thing. We're using the same type of personnel. We can also use the same type of equipment to actually be in transportation from the area that we are and into the ship or whatever is through the Norwegian coast. So the training philosophy is exactly the same, but we're using chemical equipment as chemical suits, detection system. We're using drones for detecting the area before we go on board, and so on. The picture that we see here, it's a typical training that we have once in the year together with Oslo. That we're starting with a pre-briefing, maybe a month or two before we go into the training, and we set a goal, is what is the purpose of the drill this year. And we work with that on a long time before we actually start up with it. So everything is set in the beginning, every year that we do the training. Yes.
Sorry, there's different, can I say, bunker gear, or can you explain why they have the different clothes on?
Yes, we can. So absolutely correct, Mr. Hauku. Oslo and Bergen have now the same. This is an old picture, but now they have the same type of the gear. The yellow and the black one here is a combination suit who is handle any kind of fire, same as the fire protection suit that you will go in the fire. And also have a floating system. Means that if we fall overboard or we do the winching from the helicopter down, we are able to float in the water. So it's a combination suit. Normally sea survival suit here, and actually that's history, but now everyone have the same standard for the suits done.
If they go into the water, then they are still isolated for a few climb on board the ship or whatever?
Yes, it's the same SOLAS standard for terminal protection. What else? Yes, correct. Okay. As it is in 2017, the Marine Incident Response Group in Norway are built up to the Norwegian coast. In Oslo, Larvik, Stavanger, Bergen, Ålesund, Bodø and Tromsø. Based on that, we're using normally helicopter. So it's a helicopter based, placed as close as possible. Even we in Bergen have a pickup time for approximately 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. From the alarm goes off, then we start the packing, setting the team, and we'll be picked up the helicopter will take us out. That's the way it is built up from to the Norwegian coastal. We also have some extra units to support. We're using the military, US, the Coast Guard, as you probably are familiarized with. And we also have a quite highly frequency of oil industry in the close into the area, so we have action for a lot of helicopter and transportations around the coastal. The chemical part, who is again Oslo and Bergen, it's built up for preparedness against acute pollution. It's the main thing. So that means that we have some extra time. If you're talking about pollution or we're talking about life-threatening, there is an extra time limit. But it's also, as we see it, define the word acute pollution. Can that also be a life-threatening situation? Definitely. So it's a thin balance. Yes. We're going to come in a little bit later on the type of the accident that we have the last couple of years. I have a video if you're interested and if you have time. I need 10 minutes in the end if you want to see that come out. That's could illustrate it a little bit better than the slides though. MIRC organization is built up as the highest command as the fire chief in Bergen, who at the moment is Leif Linde. And we also have Tommy Kristoffersen, who is the subject and competence part, and the MIRC leader, and split it into 4 teams. Each team have 6 members. So each team have 1 leader each. This is also what we do when we do the training. One person in each team is also responsibility that we have the training philosophy ongoing. And also because we have support, financially supporting from the government, from the DSB, the public awareness, and also from the chemical part, who is the Norwegian Coast Guard Administration, we also have a financial support every year. And that means that we need to have the documentation that we actually do the training. We are quite lucky because we have a chance to have quite good equipment. But it doesn't matter if we have a lot of equipment, very expensive equipment, and technical equipment if we can't train on it. So therefore we have to set that up, and we have to have a plan for it. So every Wednesday we do the training, we should including even helicopter pickup and drops. So therefore we have to find out how can we do this, because it will take a lot of time, as you all probably know. Even if you have a short drill or a big drill or whatever, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy. So we split that in that we have 1 call out every Wednesday who cover the mostly part of the training. And so far it works quite good. To actually maintain the training philosophy and maintain the documentation that we actually are available to do what we should do, that the government say that we should do, and also be able to handle a situation, we find out that we need to have a contract with a permanent vessel. So we have a passenger vessel who goes from Bergen to Kirkenes, Hurtigruten. Not sure if that's the correct answer, but who goes from Bergen to Kirkenes, and we have from south from Bergen and down to Denmark, who is the fjord line. So we have an agreement with them that we do the training on board, and they can also train their emergency plan response on board. For every kind of ship during the SOLAS regulation also need a preparedness and an emergency response team who actually also need training. So we take the training into the management of the fleet though. So that's we're working quite good. The last drill that we had with the Norwegian Coastal Administration was Scope 2017. So if you have time or whatever you feel for it, if you go into the website scope2017.com, you will find a lot of information of the ship oil pollution chemical training that was in Langesund for 2 months ago. It was the biggest exercise in Europe so far. A lot of information there, pictures and ideas, so feel free to go into the website and have a look there. The typical vessels and the objects was based on the risk assessment that we're working today. It's the ro-ro vessel, means that there's a combination between passenger vessel and cars, who is actually an extremely high risk if something happened. We probably, if you think about the electrical parts and cargo cars and big vessels are stored in a ship, and you also have passenger in the same combination of, who is more and more common in daily situation though. Passenger ferries, cruise lines, of course. On Bergen we were 360 ship calls during the port in 2017. We're also generating a lot of passenger. On the emergency response level, it is quite risk if you're thinking about 6,000 or 7,000 people coming off one ship to go on the port and go into the city or go wherever it is, because it can actually affect the infrastructure if something happens. Wind direction, a lot of people coming in, you have to evacuate in a ship, and where should you actually put all the people? I mean, it's only one way in and so on. So it's a highly balance of the risk assessments have to be taken in there. Also the road capacity, it's smaller than it ever been. So a lot of container that was going on the road before is now going into massive cargo ships and so on, who then mix into different types of cargos. Could be anything from paper to highly hazardous chemicals and so on. And most of the ships today is on a minimum of people that works on board. The standard of the ships get higher and higher, and the technical barriers that they say that they're not allowed to make a ship or produce a ship if you don't have the technical barriers that if something happens, the ship should be able to take care of it. And if they can handle that, people have to take care of it. And that's the response people on board the ship. But there is a limitation of how much time you can actually handle a situation on board. Therefore, you need to call in for assist and call in for help. And also we have a limitation of time and equipment. Today it's free. It doesn't cost anything for any kind of ship if they're asking for support on the Norwegian coastline. Some people doesn't actually know that. So the challenge there will be to understand all the vessel traffic through the Norwegian coast to say that if anything happens, you need to call. So it's better that we have 10 call-outs and 9 of them go back, or one disaster though. Because every science institute about this subject shows you it will take a lot of time to actually make the ship healthy again after a smaller attack. And cargo ships, of course, and tank and chemical as well as in the typical object of hazards. Though. For doing the risk assessment of a situation, we were able to use it for the first time drone. That was a highly success. I had never been in that situation before and actually doing a live streaming on the center, but financially it doesn't cost so much money either. I was quite surprised about how much a system like that actually cost. The only negative part was that it can't handle rain. Both. And in Bergen it doesn't rain, so it's like so something happened there when they ordered it in though. But they have a new one on the list now because of the good result of using it. I'm sure everyone understands what I'm saying, that you can sending up a drone, you can localize the area, the affected area. You can actually give you an idea about the picture of the weather, meaning the wind direction, the system and so on. So you can actually setting the emergency plan that you're actually thinking about how you're going to handle the situation. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how we're going to work this continue. It's definitely going to be a part of the equipment that we're going to use in the future now. We're using on shoreside as well. I'm sure that it's nothing new for you, but it's new for us to actually bring it out and using out in the system. And it's an excellent equipment to do the documentation of it after we are done with the job and so on. So highly recommend that. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Any questions so far? Can I ask you how much time I have left?
Yes. 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Okay.
40.
Okay. This picture that we starting the open session with was the same picture that you see on the side here. It's actually illustrating quite a lot of subjects that you need to that we had to think about. It's a closed city to the harbor. The city authority was closed. There is an infrastructure down to the harbor area, and we have an ongoing situation of a ship that is affected by an accident. The ship is still running. On board the ship, the call-out for the ship was quite extreme though, with military equipment, with jet fuel, dynamite, ammunition, different type of crew, and the whole thing was, as you can see, on fire. So I understand that the port authority will say that, sorry, if you need help, that's okay, but I don't want you to come into my harbor though. So I understand that, that's typical. So the weather picture was quite bad as well, so the challenge was there. And who will actually jump in a helicopter and get dropped on this one? I mean, so they did have a quite big challenge. So I'm going to take you a little run through the scenario from the beginning though. For doing this one, we need equipment to actually detect the system on board. We're using aluminium boxes or cases that we drop down. We're also using a documentation from a training philosophy, satellite telephones, an iPad that we have access to every kind of ship that's sailing in Norway. So you can go into the AIS system, yeah, and get all the information of the ship. You can find all the information of the status of the crew on board and also of the cargo. Therefore, you can start as soon as the alarm goes in and start into picking up information of the issue that you're going into. It doesn't matter if a small fishing boat or a massive cruise boat, the same thing will be there. We also have different way to entering the affected ship on. If there is a life-threatening situation and a fire on board, we would prefer to come in with a helicopter and get dropped directly on board the...
President kommer och han kommer med och han mår ett sted.
Ja.
Då kanske kommer han in i Malmö och då får vi en paus och så fortsätter det.
Okay. Is he here now?
Nej, han kommer snart. Men du vet att när han kommer då får du en liten paus och så fortsätter det.
Okay.
Är det okej?
Yeah. Okay. Do you want your water back? Oh, thank you. Rewinding very quickly. So we'd be normally using the helicopter for dropping in if a life-threatening situation. It may make sense there. So, but if you're talking about the chemical part, we prefer to come in the seaway, meaning that we will drop close as we can and have our transportation in with a smaller vessel, and we enter the ship sideways as this though. Then again, this is a training factor. This is not real case. And when we do the training, everything is set up. So it's always different between training and realistic. So then again, that we discovered in the drill that we had 4 months ago, that you will see a little bit later now, little bit rough sea. The height from the sea level and up to the top of the ship is on the edge, so we couldn't use the equipment that we had. So we need to find an alternative way to go on board. Chemical vessels as that is also split into the explosive safe level area, that we can't using equipment that actually can sparking in or you have a gas leak and so on. So every equipment that we have to use have to be 100% non-explosive, even from the radio system to the leather system and so on. And this is the ideal way that we wanted to entering the affected ship though. The boxes that we have on board also could be a challenge. We have a lot of help with Mr. Haukur from, as you all know, based on his knowledge of safe equipment and pull-up system though. But we're using this one every time. We have about, in each team, MIRC team, we have 6 persons and we have 7 cases. So totally heavy wreck for about, I think it is about 950 kilos, up to 1,000 kilos. Is the limitation for the helicopter transportation though. So if we have to go a little bit further out, we need to drop some of the equipment for giving less weight in the helicopter. So, and so on. So you see, it takes a lot of equipment that have to be on board. Everything from air bottles to detection equipment and decontamination system as well, if we get affected by the chemicals. So. The camera that we have in our squad, it's forward-looking infrared camera, also FLIR camera, who can detect and illustrating the type of the gases or the chemical. A lot of this equipment that we're showing you now is actually owned by the Norwegian Coast Guard Administration, but we are using it though. This is from a scenario that we wouldn't be able to entering the way that we said that we were entering by the lever rope, so we need to use the alternative. And we find a basket on board the ship, and we took the crew and slide them from the basket on board the safe area from the ship though. Just showing that still the alternative, we have to think alternative no matter what we're doing. Even a wind direction in a situation like this could be fatal. So everything has to be thinking through before we actually starting the training though. This is from the streaming from the drone. Means that the ELCO or the coordination center doesn't have to be in the area. It could be another place in Norway. You can sit down and do the observers from what's actually going on at all time though. You can get highly good information of the ship and actually starting to think forward, to be proactive for the next step, how we're going to handle it. Yes.
Excuse me, I have to
Yep.
take a small break.
Good.
Mér langar að biðja ykkur að standa upp og bjóða forseta Íslands Guðna T. H. Jóhannesson velkominn.
Should I take this off?
Then we will continue. Ef ykkur er til að hjálpa mér að kveikja þessum skjávarpum aftur, þá verður það frábært.
Okay. Yes, thought we have a couple of more minutes I'll run through since I have a couple of more minutes left on the presentation. I thought I would take a little bit of from a real setting, a little bit of the challenge and how it's actually financially cost and so on though. This is, not sure if anybody are familiarized with the ship or the accident? No? Okay. This ship here was attending to a NATO drill in Norway and was hired in by the military force in Norway to actually do transportation of military equipment and so on from the north to the south. And therefore they're using it as a transportation ship though. So, and therefore there was some laws and regulation of the MARPOL, the Marine Pollution Regulators and so on, was also affected there though. Very typical ship, and there's nothing more big deal than that, except that there was yeah, sorry. So very short of the vessel. This is on Norwegian, but I'm gonna try to set it into English though. It's a ro-ro vessel type, means that cars and so on can roll in and they can roll out, and they can also do transportation of the passenger though. It's 190 meters long and 26 meters wide. They had a person on board on totally on 32 people, and the passenger who was defined as a passenger on board was 12 from the military forces though. They had one job to do actually, was actually to take care of the military equipment on board. They had some military equipment. This is what we're getting out as an information from the first call out though. 300 vehicles, a 70-ton with diesel, jet fuel and gasoline, who are split on different tanks, and some steel jerry cans, that portable that you're probably familiar with going out, with diesel and so on. And some of them are enclosed in the containers, and also are unknowable of ammunition. So there was a fire on board at 1908 in the afternoon, 70 nautical miles from Florø, Norway. The fire appears and started in a container loaded with 77,000 liters of jet fuel and diesel are spread from there and into the thruster room. That was the information though. So the alarm goes off about 1 o'clock in the morning, meaning 6 hours later. And this is, some people see this and they read in the news and so on, but it's not unnatural that things like this actually happen though. So we saw this on the television and so on, that we were waiting for the call out, but nothing happened. Because they have so much equipment on board and so much professional people on board to actually handle the situation. The point there was, it takes a long time, was that the management on board the ship didn't have any time to do any kind of call out though. They were 100% occupied with actually having control of the vessel though. Normally call out 6 people, as I explained for you before, and what happened there is that you have 2 people from the who are representing the Bergen Fire Department will set ELCO and organize the emergency response team in the city though. The forecast for that day, not the forecast, the picture of the weather for that time was 40 knots southwest wind. Waves significant, about 5 meters. And it's rain and was bad visibility for the whole thing. So they had everything that, not that perfect though, that we normally do drills on. So therefore though. Again, a new call information will come in when they are on the way and they're waiting for the helicopter transport out into the vessel. Is still ongoing fires in the container on the vessel. The vessel have still control of its own engine, so they can use the fire pumps and they can use the emergency system as far as it is now. They have ammunition on board, 150 meters on the stern, on all the way after the ship, and they ongoing fire extinguisher on board. No people is missing, and they have now changed the 77,000 liters of jet fuel to 40,000 liters of air gasoline on tanks. And they have no idea how much ammunition they're actually having on board. So this is a typical call-out that you're probably familiarized with, when you're having the information and you're having another information and so on, and that splits out and you actually don't know how much they're actually talking about them. So the time limit for this sequence was 1:45 in the morning. We were sent into to the airport, and 3:15 in the morning, the helicopter that we have contract with, it will take us out, and 4 o'clock in the morning you're on board the vessel though. So time goes extremely fast though in a situation like this though. And 3 o'clock day after, it was docked in Bergen, and the ship was still warm though. I'll show you a couple of videos. The captain was also giving an IMO, was the International Maritime Organization, who is an EU program that who split all the conventions down for the laws and regulations for any kind of vessels in the industry though. He was also having a medal for his job that he actually did though. So, as just setting the thing in the picture though. No?
It's probably behind the presentation.
Okay. You have any idea about that?
Þau eru á bak við sjóið sko inn á internetinu.
Like that?
Það var skjóta niður á þessu presentation.
Þetta er bara skip.
Já, ég það skip.
Ekki hluta þessu vantilega.
Yeah. Yeah, I can. I have an idea how you're gonna fix this.
Control.
Take this one. This is the situation on board. As you probably can hear that it's a bell going on all the time. So we asked the captain what his priority number 1 on board was. Then again he said it was the people. And as you can hear, the alarm goes on now. That will continue from 7 o'clock afternoon to 4 o'clock in the morning. Like this all the time on the bridge. That's a challenge. And then again, he was trying to get the ship into Flora, the port in the city, and they say, sorry, you have 40,000 liters with jet fuel on board. You have a lot of fire there. We will define the ship as no control, so no, I'm not 100% sure about that. It will affect the infrastructure as well. So they needed people out to help them in. And so you know that it was an extremely special situation for the management on board, and so on. Yes. So finally, I will end my presentation to Sorry. Then again, as I started with this morning, the ideally of having an emergency response on special area depends of the training, the way that we do the training, what kind of equipment that we have, and that we also have a good documentation of it. It doesn't matter again how much equipment that we have to handle situation like this. The risk assessment have to be taken before we entering the area, because everything can change during a very shortly time. And we know now for a fact that a call out or something happened there till you're having the support group on board could take a lot of time. And that time limit there, things can actually change a lot. So safety first and so on. So these 4 elements splitting together to have the power to handle it and handle it safely is our goal. That's what we ongoing work with all the time. We also do training for MIRC, Marine Incident Response Groups, for the municipals in Sweden and Denmark as well. So like a standard training for education MIRC personnel. Yes. Any question? Yes, my friend.
About the finance.
Pardon?
The finance. You get some money from the state
Yes,
and you get some money from the Coast Guard.
correct. That's correct. It's a symbolic money from the states, but from the environmental part, from the Norwegian Coastal Administration, we have mainly a higher level of support there. And then again, they buying in the equipment, they own it, even the drone and the forward-looking camera and so on, but we're using it. Then again, we have a responsibility that we actually do the training as well, so it's a win-win situation.
And the members of the teams, they are firemen coming from the brandmaster?
Yes, they are professional firemen. It's a 24/7 ongoing. So in Bergen we have 36 people on shift, 24/7, 36. And in that group we have at least 7 people who is the qualification for the MIRC team, and also from the climbing and also from the sea diving and so on. So everything is split into that. There's an ongoing process, day and night.
They are working in each shift, they are not all on the same shift?
No, we have 4 shifts in Bergen. We have Brigade A, B, C, and D, who is an ongoing process then. Yeah. So when we are off, we are off. But then again, if the whole thing comes down, they make a phone call also. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
If you want to join a group, how long time takes to train a firefighter for maritime rescue?
Yeah, the minimum requirement for being in the Marine Incident Response Group is roughly 4 to 5 years. Minimum course, basic fireman course. Is that what we say, Kaukur? Yeah, you know about that. Yeah. And it's a 10 days course, so 7 days course though, intensive course for being into the Marine Incident Response Group.
That's because it included with basic sea survival training.
Yes. They have the sea survival training, the bumper training, and
Helicopters.
a helicopter pickup and drop and so on. And it's an ongoing training factor as well. After that, that's what it is. Okay. Then I have to say thank you for your time. It's a pleasure. Thank you.